Hey, good morning, guys, and welcome to Make It Happen. I'm your host, Clive Williamson, and I'm with my co-host, Coach Patrick Gale from Albany State. Welcome, guys. And today we want to talk about, we just want to follow up on our discussion from last time when we talk about the NBA draft. Now, these guys are fully well set in where they are and their team, and it's summer league is going to be amazing. And want to know what you guys' thoughts about where the guys going to go, who's going to make the proper adjustments, and the right fit for their team. Coach, what's your thoughts on some of these guys and where they land, and was any surprise in regards to what we see in the NBA draft?
Clive, I thought, there were a couple of surprises, but I think overall, just to kind of recap the draft, I think the NBA personnel and front offices were really making character and skill set, shooting, high IQ, passing, um, playing multiple positions. They were making that a premium. So some guys went a little bit higher. I got calls about, the OTE guys and the G League guys, but I said that's outliers. If you look at overall, I was excited that a lot of college players that I think will at least be rotational players got drafted, and some college players went, top 10. So I was excited about that. I thought it was a great influx of talent. I root for all the guys that got drafted. And we when we shift to summer league, we have to remember about, the draft from last year and even a couple of years ago. And there's some names that I'm seeing on these rosters that I think people will be excited to see in Vegas. I'm just specifically just to kind of, dip our toe in it a little bit. Charlotte's roster is loaded. They got some guys that I was high on in last year's draft, so I think they stuck out. But all in all, I'm excited to see these college guys and these guys that have been drafted, a year ago or even a few years ago because they've been G League guys playing the summer league.
I do agree, but I look at this roster for the G League, and I don't know. I think some guys that I felt like were good college players that should have gotten drafted at some point. So I'm kind of wondering, for me, is how they're evaluating these young guys to get them to the NBA draft. I know the league seems to be getting younger by the day. They drafted on potential, but you're looking at a guy for that got signed um, for the Atlanta Hawks, Jaquel Joyner from NC State. I think he played a very good at NC State. He played really good at the point guard position. He can also run the team. He can shoot the basketball from the perimeter. And I thought when I didn't see him get drafted, it was kind of shocking for me. I'm glad that this young man got picked up as an undrafted player for Atlanta Hawks, and I'm love to see what he does just going forward in summer league and where his career will end up.
I agree, Clive. I think, when you look at the point guard position, I throw another name in there, Marcus Noel, from New York, did a great job in NCAA tournament for Kansas State. Um, the point guard position, I think, is the hardest position to project in the NBA. And, I know for, college coaches, like me, we don't recruit point guards. Point guards recruit us. There's something that makes us, want to take that kid to run your team. It's the quarterback of your team. In the NBA, it's a very difficult position, to manage. But if you have the right,
I agree with that. And the point guard is a leader of the team, and I just feel like this young man has shown that leadership. Man, I was very surprised not to see him, name being called in the NBA draft. The next guy I thought that was going to do very well in the NBA, and to see him drafted at 49, going to the Cleveland Cavaliers, was Amani Bates. And for me, this young man has been a number one draft pick since high school, right? So that just tells me when we're ranking these young guys early, and we are projecting them to be a number one pick, and we don't know what the future holds. I still believe that he's a very good player. I do believe that he's a first round pick, but he was drafted the second round and drafted that late. I do believe that Cleveland actually get a great pick. He's a pro. He had a great workout in the NBA Combine, and I do believe that he has a lot to prove come summer league, and a lot of people are going to be very surprised how he really plays. He can shoot the ball from perimeter. He can get to the basket. I want to say he has a little bit of a lot actually of a Kevin Durant type player, body built, can handle the basketball very well, could play some point guard position, run a team, and as well find his own shot.
Well, I think he's going to have a great opportunity. I think he went to a really good team that is desperate for shooting, from their wings on the perimeter. I agree with you. The talent is there. It's always been there since high school. I was watching actually some of his high school stuff just last night, just saying, wow, how did this guy drop, so late in the draft? But he's going to be. I think he's going to be a telltale story. Hopefully of triumph, but it's also going to be a telltale story to these, young prospects. Just because you're ranked in high school, just because you're, going up the boards and a star in high school, that doesn't equal into success. You must keep working and you must, keep doing the little things. And hopefully, Amani will figure it out, in the summer league and in the training camp.
I definitely think he will. I think that he's just a hard worker. He will go in there with a chip on his shoulder, and I think that that's the way to go. Now I'm looking at the G League roster. I'm looking at the Summer League roster, and I see a lot of G League guys on here. That's a testament to what the G League is doing. So I'm wondering, now it's so many avenues now, right, to get drafted to the NBA or even have a chance to play in the NBA. Now you have, OT, college, and now the G League, right? And for what I'm seeing, which route would be the best route for a guy to get an NBA job, to get signed to an NBA team?
Well, Clive, I think why do we have to pick one route? I love the different routes. I mean, this is something that, really is recent. I mean, as recent as in the last, 2 years. I think it's great to have different avenues to get to a destination. So I think it's great that, they are looking at G League guys. I think that's important. If you're going to use that as your, developmental system for the league, you gotta invest in it and you gotta, take guys in it. And we've seen some guys that have played well in the G League that have gotten rotational minutes. The world champion Denver Nuggets, they have a young man, Peyton Watson, I believe, that's in the G League that's blowing up. I can't wait to see him next year play some NBA rotational minutes. I love the fact that the twins from the overtime elite system got drafted. I think there'll be more players get drafted from that system.
I definitely agree, but I think that my question is, does that put pressure on guys that go to college, right? And go to college for 2 years, and then into the NBA draft. What to say about those guys? Because as I watch the NBA draft and I seen guys that go to college and won national championship, end up drafting 20th pick in the NBA draft. For those guys, it's like what they have to do now for college guys who actually go to college and play, which I think give the guys who go to college a um, better all around game. They got to develop their game a lot better than a guy that's I say who will come directly from OTE or some other avenue. No overseas guys. I think the college games give a guy a lot more refinery to their game and get them prepared
Well,
a lot better for the NBA. I mean, Cam Whitmore won a national championship and he ended up drafting that late in the NBA draft. So I'm kind of wondering how they're really evaluating these guys, on a scale. I know they're looking at the trajectory of a kid, from OTE or the college kids, but I feel like it all depends on the team. If you want to win right now, you want a rookie to come in right away and be able to produce right away. I'm going with a kid from college.
Well, if you take out Victor Wembanyama, the highest drafted domestic player was a college player, Brandon Miller. So, um, to me, we can't we can't panic or we can't get too startled when you have a Scoot Henderson and you have the Thompson twins get drafted. They're outliers. I mean, if you look at totality, most of the players that were drafted domestically were college players. So I think competition is what this game is all about. So you
Yes, it
ask, well,
is.
what what do guys have to do? They have to do what Brandon Miller did. They have to, dominate their league. They have to win first and foremost. I love the reference to Connecticut guys, but I'll throw in the Michigan guys. You had two Michigan players get drafted really high, and I don't believe that Michigan got to the NCAA tournament. So, we have to look at. I like the fact that you can throw in Scoot Henderson and the Thompson twins. I can look at a kid like Kobe Buffkin that had a not great freshman year, but a great sophomore year and a great improvement, and he got rewarded for it. And that's that. I'm always about prove yourself. Don't look at the obstacles. What are you going to do to respond? And I believe that a number of these college players will be successful. Tonight is free agency. The biggest free agent is Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown played at UM, and he was a 4-year player. And
And
he's
he's a
now
player.
correct. And he's now the biggest free agent piece that's out there right now. Even more important in some personnel offices than a James Harden because of
Mhm.
his winning ways and because of how versatile and how tough he is. So I think college guys are going to be fine. And I think it's just only going to step up the level in college.
I do agree. I definitely do agree with that. When you look at the NBA, G League Ignite, sorry, the G League Ignite, I like what they're doing over there. They're taking these young guys, they're molding them faster, and I think that these young guys are getting to play in front of NBA general manager every night, right? These guys are getting looked at. Scoop Anderson is not the only guy that I felt like will be successful coming out of there. I just like what they're doing, and I do believe that they will develop more guys, going forward. And I think that that will be, I won't say looked at above college, because I still feel like college is the best route to go. You just get a lot more. We talk about Match Madness and just the college game alone. But I do like what the NBA G League is doing. I'm still, kind of iffy about the OTE stuff because they play so free. Um, I think they do need a lot more structure, but they got great coaches over there. And Coach Ali, and he's what he's doing over there, and he's an experienced guy, NBA guy. A winner. So I like what they're doing over there, but for me, I'm still college and G League, and that for me is the best route for me right now. But I do like what OTE is doing and giving young guys opportunity to showcase their talent.
What I would like to see happen with OTE and with the G League Ignite, I would like to see more international competition. I would like to see kind of what they do over in Europe. I'd like to see some tournaments where those teams go in and play those teams in Europe. I think I'm sure NBA GMs would love to see that, and I'd like to see some of those teams in Europe get invited over here to play OTE and the G League Ignite. I think the game is global. So why not at that level? Because you've referenced that is kind of need to be more structured. That's also an advantage if you can just kind of do some things. So
Mhm.
why not have they're getting paid, so you can't say they're not pros. Why not have special friendlies? European teams come over and play. I love to see them play against more international competition. I thought it was great to see the G League Ignite play Mets '92. I thought that game helped a lot of GMs kind of make their decisions on how good Scoop is and how good Victor Wembanyama is and how they'll translate in the league. So I want to see more of that. I want to see more competition with European teams because European teams, they to me, you got a lot of teams and a lot of leagues in Europe that are at the same level as some of maybe these non-playoff teams in the NBA.
I do agree. A little bit. Let's touch on a little bit the overseas guys, right? I mean, the NBA is more and more taking some overseas guys. What's your thoughts on a guy that's coming from overseas that's coming to the league to play? Is that helpful to the league, or that takes the jobs away from American kid, who I feel it's more a lot breaded for the NBA game than overseas guys. And I'm not knocking overseas guys. I mean, I was one of those guys who go overseas and play and got the opportunity to play overseas. But I know the game is physical there. Now, Americans don't get any calls, by the way. You're American player, you go play overseas, you're not getting some of the calls, right? But I think what I do like, though, that they're doing overseas is starting these kids early, right? You can start playing professionally the earliest at 16, 17 years old, which still give a notch up to, them playing against grown man at an early age. I think what we need to do better, and this is just sidebar where the NBA could start having academies like soccer, right? What soccer's doing, having an academy, say the Atlanta Hawks have a youth academy where now they're getting to see these kids play right in front. They have hands on these kids a lot earlier. That can create another avenue as well. To help the American players develop even faster. But I think we're on a good trajectory. I mean, and where we're going here in basketball in America. What are your thoughts on that, Coach?
The MVP, the Finals MVP. Jokic was a pro before he got here, right? So he waited his turn as a second round pick, and he took advantage of his opportunity. I think we need to have, like you said, academies over here. I think an OTE has already kind of set that precedent. We definitely need to model the European system with the academies and the pro teams having academies. But until we do that, it's going to be somewhat of you got to go to college to kind of make it to the NBA if you want to get kind of the best opportunity. I think we definitely need to have overseas guys come in the league. I think on the flip side, those teams over there, aren't there's a cap on how many Americans they can have on the team. So, basketball is a global game. It needs to be all inclusive. And I hope that, you know, NBA and all the other professional leagues, the top leagues, the Euro League, they all work together to try to get the best talent as young as possible to develop because no one wants to see players that, really don't understand the game, can't play the game, and have to wait 3-4 years. We want to see guys be able to play as rookies and we want to see guys be able to play and be stars, in a 2-3 year window, kind of like a Jason Tatum. So I think if you work at it and if you, kind of have these type of conversations, it will improve.
I agree. I agree. I think that we cannot wait too long for guys to develop, and you're taking a chance. You're taking the teams are taking a big chance on a risk on guys that I know we draft on potential and say, well, this guy's going to be this guy trajectory is to be here within a year or two, and we want to make the league a better league and a competitive league. These young kids got to come in right away and have their mindset that we are going to add to a team and make that team better. And we're going to work hard, not just because we made the NBA. We're going to continue to work. We're going to continue to develop, and it's hard. My advice to those young kids that's come in, and it's easier said than done, is to find a veteran player, man. Find a vet to kind of learn the game from. Because we're talking about 82 games, the travel. And now what the NBA has added now is the mid-season tournament, which that's going to it's not adding more games, but you still have to play in that aspect in that game, and you got to get your body right. You got to eat right, and that's a lot. I think there's a lot of young kids that come in the league that thinking it's high school or college, and they don't have to prepare themselves. The game's a lot faster. You're playing against grown men. Like if when I played, I'm not letting a kid who just came out of college and I've been here with this team for the last 3 years to come in and just get started minutes over me who've been here working hard. First of all, I'm playing for my livelihood, right? And I think we fail to understand that. Like you pay for a check. This is how I feed my family. So you got to coming just to work just as hard as I am to produce.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't reference, the NBA academies. Benedict Mathurin is an alum from the NBA Academy in Mexico. So the NBA does understand what it needs to do, and a lot of of those conversations, like you said, in NBA academies are about nutrition and making sure that you have to work hard. And I think no one knows until they go through it. And so a great point that you made was players have to find a veteran. But the veterans can't give them all the game. They can't give them everything because, like you said, they got to feed their families as well. So the veteran's not going to give a rookie everything. I think the best thing for these young players to do is to, as early as possible, prepare with being around the game. Steph Curry is a great example. He was around the game since he was a little boy. Be around the game as much as possible. Study. Don't look at the things in front of the cameras. Look at the behind the scenes. The stretching that these players have to do, the body maintenance, the mindset that in order to be a successful pro, you got to think like one, you got to act like one, you got to walk like one. So I think, not just getting veterans, but as young as you can, being exposed to, the grind of being a professional basketball player.
And I do agree. And with that being said, we're gonna take a small break, and when we come back, we will be discussing a little bit more about the teams, the summer league team will be competing in the NBA Summer League, and also a little bit about free agency. We want to see where some guys go, and a lot of guys are hopping out of their option, and we definitely want to see these guys end up in a place where they can now compete for a championship or do have a team to get better